Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to our viewers, whoever they may be.
Hi, everybody.
So we're gonna start off with a bit of presentation, who we are, what we do, so that everyone will get accustomed to us. I am Diana Smith, Cosplay, and
I'm Cosplay Goods.
And we are both cosplayers and respective representatives of the Rebel Legion and the 501st Legion. So we both do cosplay in our spare time, obviously, and well, some of us also do commissions, also available for both of us here. So we're probably gonna take some questions on that. We should probably start off with a definition of what cosplay actually is for people that may not know. Maybe not everyone lives on the internet like we do.
For sure.
So cosplay as a term itself comes from the terms costume and play put together in one word. And the costume part is pretty much speaking for itself, but the play comes from role play. So it's actually, acting out your character and getting to talk like them, act like them. So it really is fun for everyone involved.
And there's also some levels, I guess, of play where you have the hobbyists where they don't actually do that much role playing and they focus on costuming, or there could be maybe someone who's into competitions a lot, and that's where you have to role play a character really well. So it's a really relative term and everybody does it their own way, and it's always so much fun.
That's the best part about it, that it can be done in so many ways, and it makes it amazing.
Yep.
So we're gonna do a bit of background on when we actually started costuming and respectively why. Important question there. For me, at least, it was back in 2010. I was, average run-of-the-mill geek, and me and one of my friends at the time, we found out that we actually had a convention in Romania. Like, before, we've only just, browsed the internet, looked at other people's conventions, but we're like, nah, there's no such thing here. And lo and behold, we found out there was one. So we're like, okay, let's go. But then we looked at each other and went, well, if we're going, why not also do a cosplay? So we kind of put together some costumes. There was an anime that was really popular at the time, Black Butler. So we both dressed up as Black Butler. Me, more or less, like closet cosplay, bought shit. She went a bit, better than I did. She actually got some things tailored for her. So we had a ton of fun. It was unexpectedly fun. And for me, at least, I went, I need more of this. I definitely need more of this. And then the rest is pretty much history, and I've been cosplaying since.
Nice. For me, I think my start was in late 2014. Incidentally, I went to my first Comic-Con the same year, but in spring, and I saw this new phenomenon that was cosplay. And I was so intrigued by it, seeing so many talented people in these really cool costumes. And I decided, I need to do this. I have to do this. It's so much fun. And it was a simple bought costume and nothing that complicated, but to be recognized and to be called by my character's name and to have my picture taken, that was such an awesome experience that I really wanted to continue doing it, and I've been doing it since. It's a very rewarding hobby, at least, if not more than that.
Yeah, and it was, at least back then, I mean, when conventions were smaller and it wasn't, such a worldwide phenomenon, you really got the feeling of people coming together. Like, you would finally meet a community that you had no other venue to manifest in. So suddenly you got all of these geeks that are all really, really happy to see each other. So there's a lot of hugging, there's talking, making friends, taking pictures. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's like a large-scale family. It's where I met most of my best friends, actually.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't think that I would take it up, but I discovered that it was basically a medium for me to manifest a lot of my other hobbies that I was doing in my spare time. So I'm like, oh yay, this thing that has everything, go for it. So yeah.
It's a nice excuse to learn a lot of crafts like sewing, electrical stuff, even woodworking maybe. It does it all.
Yep.
So, what should we talk about? Should we talk about our favorite costumes?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about our favorite costumes. I actually have to think about this one. It's a close tie between this one that I'm wearing today, Vice Admiral Holdo.
Understandable.
The monk from Diablo 3. I think it's because they're both such, I don't know, relatively easy to wear costumes. It's like, okay, it's in and out and everything is peachy. I don't need a lot of effort, and I don't need a helper to just help me get the costume. Spoiler, that's something that we sometimes need, just somebody an extra pair of hands around to just help you stick in the costume. But there are also costumes that I had a lot of fun memories with, so I think I sort of attach that to the costume, and then that becomes one of my favorite costumes.
Yeah.
Because what happened when I was wearing said costume. So for the monk, I know it's a bit difficult to wear sometimes because it's a bit heavy, but I've worn it so many times and just gotten such amazing feedback and made so many friends wearing it. So it's like a staple. It's still in a box somewhere. If I feel like it, I'm still gonna, take it out and wear it. And for Holdo, I think it was that a lot of people related to the character, like especially small children, that melted my heart so much. Just seeing like little kids run up to me, that was the best thing ever. Yeah. And the costume itself, I love the character, and even if it was like a bit difficult to make, it's still one of my favorite costumes to wear. So
nice.
How about you? What are your favorite costumes?
I think my favorite one has to be Malthael from Diablo 3, simply because it was probably my most ambitious project, and at the same time it was the easiest to wear somehow, even if it's a full suit of armor basically, and I couldn't really see out of the hood. But it was a very rewarding experience, both because it got me a lot of prizes, which was awesome, and also to see everybody's reaction and how everybody supported me while making it, and just the general feeling of wearing it was amazing and really nice. And I really feel like it pushed my boundaries with making costumes. And maybe Sylvanas, my first armor that I made, just because of the fun that it was to make an armor for the first time and all the ups and downs that it had, and embodying the character as well. I think these are my top two for sure.
I still remember that one convention where I had the monk and you had Malthael.
Yeah, good times.
These ridiculous
conventions.
Photos, just, playing comedy.
Yep.
Yeah, that felt a little bit like, the classic convention feel and what we used to do at conventions, because I feel like that's changed a bit.
Yeah.
So that was fun. What kind of costumes do you usually like making though? Like what's your favorite sort of thing?
Well, I'm definitely very partial to armors, both because they're fun to make, but usually the characters that come with them are interesting. Maybe even the design is a really high factor in the decision-making process. So yeah, I'd say mainly armors. What about you?
For me, it's usually a mix of things. I usually enjoy variety in a costume, and I also, have a slightly masochistic desire for challenge. So I'm always looking into doing new things. And for me, if I can find a costume that will challenge me in like many different aspects, you know, wig making, sewing, building armor, props, whatever, that's what I'm just gonna reach out and just grab it. It's like this. Yes. I'm gonna suffer, but this. Basically story of my life with most of my costumes.
So I think
we have a question.
Yes.
We have a question. Could you tell us some information about the high-level cosplayers? Can they earn a living from this kind?
It depends really. So it mainly depends on what you want to do and what your possibilities are. But you also have to have a significant amount of skill to be able to get to a point where you can actually start earning enough to make a living. So
yeah.
It's really difficult, and particularly now in COVID times, it's been a huge impact on most of the media making, including, you know, cosplay and props, because, well, we don't have conventions anymore. Nobody's going anywhere. There's not such a big need to make a costume, so commissioners also don't have as much work as they used to. So it's really dependent on the times and on the market, and it's usually a pretty hard market to navigate. Some really get lucky, hit the jackpot, and then it's just like smooth sailing after that, but it's really hard to get there.
I think most professional cosplayers who take this risk, basically, they don't just do cosplay, they have to branch out and do more things like selling books or patterns, or it's not just the costume making that gets them the money, and it's not the only thing that can help them survive this industry.
Yeah. Because, yeah, maybe you get paid for a commission and maybe you appear at a convention, but in the meantime, what do? You have to have like a stable income because, well, rent needs to be paid and food needs to be put on the table. So,
yeah.
I have another question. What is the essential difference between an amateur cosplayer and a professional one?
It really depends, because the term professional is really subjective. So a professional cosplayer could be someone that, you know, puts a lot of effort into their costume, but isn't specifically like into competitions or appearing at conventions. They're just out there to have fun. And you also have people that, you know, are convention guests and they make props, they make commissions, they participate in competitions. So you can really still be the professional and casual cosplayer at the same time, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah.
It depends on what you want to do with it and what your goals are, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. It might be a silly question, but I have to ask. In your cosplay acting, you put you like the character most or the costume? You identify yourself with the character, or only like the costume?
First?
Sure. I think it depends on the cosplayer. Some people prefer to just look at the face value of the character and just go like, okay, this is a cool costume. I don't care about the personality of the character, but this costume really speaks to me, so I'm going to craft it, and that's basically the end of it. Other people really maybe even care more about the personality of the character. So it all comes down to, I guess, the type of cosplayer that you are. I personally like a mixture of those two. I like to have a really interesting costume that I know will give me a challenge, that I will have fun crafting, but I also want a character that has an interesting personality that I can maybe even relate to a little bit. So that's usually at least my thought process.
For me, I really, really have to be attached to the character. So I have a thing. I don't know why in particular, but if I don't have a certain amount of, you know, emotional attachment to the character, I can't finish the costume. Like I will lose interest in it. I will start it because the costume is cool and I want to make it, but then like 2 or 3 weeks in, I'm like, yeah, I don't like it. So for me, it's pretty important to be attached to the character itself. That's what gets the costumes finished for me. Otherwise, they just end up in the unfinished bin. So
I had a problem with the internet, so I wasn't here for a moment. But I think that your answer was perfect.
I'm sorry.
No problem. This is the risk.
Yeah, online is always prone to this kind of issue.
What kind of conventions do you like? Do you like Comic-Cons or film festivals or Eurocons, Worldcons?
Well, the truth is each convention usually has its own profile and its own sort of feeling, because it's not just about, you know, what the convention is about, but what the convention feels like. So it depends. I can't say that I like one specific convention because of the type of convention it is, but rather because of the people that it gathers. So if I like a community, I'm going to join the convention, regardless of what that is, you know? So that's it for me.
Yeah, I feel like if you at least know the people who are going to a certain convention, even if the convention is not something you'd necessarily go to, if your friends are going, then you bet I'm going as well. So it really depends on the crowd that sort of convention attracts. It could be whatever. It could be a Comic-Con, it could be a film festival. It's really about the people there, and especially if you're in cosplay, you really need to focus a little bit on how you're going to be treated there.
Yeah.
One more question from me, and I will take another question. If you have to characterize a cosplayer, what do you say about a cosplayer? I don't think that it's an introvert. I think that it's an extrovert. But how do you characterize a cosplayer in generally?
I think they can be both, and I can safely speak for myself and Irina as well that we're both introverts.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a challenge really, because it's not really the same sort of feeling when you put on a costume. Things change a little bit. Like you're not yourself. You're not your office working 9-to-5 self, you know, that wants to approach people. You're just like this entity, this character. So it's a bit different. I don't know. Personally, I think there are a lot of people and they're all very talented in whatever they do. And I honestly admire anyone's passion that is willing to put on a costume for this, because it's an effort. A lot of people don't realize just how much of an effort it is, but like this is 2 hours of makeup and prep and costume. So I have costumes that take even more than 2 hours to get into, and whether you take, you know, 15 minutes or 2 hours to get in the costume, it's still a pain to wear and it's still difficult, and it's not, you know, the average clothes that you would wear every day. So it's really an effort for your passion, and that's something that I admire in any cosplayer, regardless of how skilled they are, of what they're doing, if they're casual, if they're competition level. It's something that I look towards. And I love seeing it because it's a special kind of a feeling when people are motivated about something, they're passionate about something, about their craft, about, you know, film, a series or something, and they're just showing that love and affection for that sort of fandom. So I think that's amazing, whatever form it takes.
I definitely think even if people are introverts, there's this undeniable confidence that a costume can give you, especially if you want to, I guess, role play your character as well as you can. You basically shed your day-to-day personality and just transcend into this new personality, and that can really change a person, especially if you know them a certain way. Cosplay does cool stuff to people.
Another question, when do you think that the cosplay activity will be in full force again?
After COVID.
Maybe you have a superpower and you will know when COVID is gone.
I really wish I had
That
this.
would be nice.
Yeah, it would be fantastic, but I don't think it's gonna be anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, not
I mean,
anytime soon.
yeah, but I guess it's still something that we can continue doing, even if it's not, you know, in an aggregated environment like a convention. People are still, you know, going out, taking pictures, getting dressed, taking pictures in their own living room, just, you know, setting up a photo booth. So I don't think the passion itself is gone. Just, you know, it's harder to manifest.
Yeah. And it's really up to us to have this change happen, at least in Romania, because other countries have been having Comic-Cons and conventions lately. So it's not impossible for it to
I have mixed feelings about that too, because
yeah.
Yeah, usually like conventions and the current times do not mix, because it's really hard to keep people at a convention not in close proximity. And if you're gonna spend, you know, 2 hours in makeup and then just like have a mask over it, what's really the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, do we have any other questions?
If any participants have another question, maybe Dragic, Daniel.
Yes, if I can ask. Hello from Montenegro. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Dragic. Welcome.
Nice to meet you online, and I hope you can understand me, because my question is, when you prepare character for conventions, for festivals, do you try to look like characters from comics or from movies or series, some original or from nowadays?
Are we talking about the same character that is both in comics and movies?
Yes. If you have maybe, for example, some, I don't know what you have to prepare nowadays.
Well, I think I actually have a bit of an example for that. There's this idea that I've wanted to create sometime in the future. A comic book character, her name is Proxima Midnight from the Marvel Universe. And her TV or her movie portrayal is very much more different than the comic book version. And I definitely want to do the comic book version when the time comes, because I feel it's a lot more interesting, and it speaks about the character's personality a bit more. But it really depends on the character and how they're portrayed in each of the either the movies or the comic books.
For me personally, if I have a character that is present in more than one media, I have, you know, certain criteria that I decide on. Yeah, first it's the portrayal. If I like each version more than the other, because yeah, comics and movies usually tend to differ, because it's speaking to different crowds and it needs to have a different dynamic. So then you have like character changes and different dynamics. But when I'm looking for costume to make, I usually prefer movies or series or really anything that has, you know, tangible reference, because I live for details. I love to get a costume as close as I can to the reference. So I'm always looking for us, like, okay, yeah, I like this costume, but I can't tell how it's made. And I know that if I try to make it and I have to do a lot of guesswork, that's just going to be, you know, frustrating for me. So I usually go for more visual media. We can't hear you.
Thank you so much.
Very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you for the question.
Bye.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, I think we can carry on with our own questions, I guess, in our topics of discussion.
What was your favorite cosplay experience?
As a whole, I think anytime that we've gone to an adventure Comic-Con in Bulgaria, mainly because, I mean, it was the whole experience of it, not just the people, not just, I don't know, the contests or whatever. I think that has to be my favorite experience. What about you?
For me, it's a bit of a niche experience, but I was at this one book fair. It wasn't even a convention, it was a book fair. And we were asked to come and talk about cosplay. There were me and two other cosplayers. And we were for this one publishing house. So we generally had a lot of time on our hands because we only had like 2 presentations, and the time in between was spent just like, you know, lying around, not doing much. So at some point I was just propped against one of the columns. I was dressed as Barriss Offee. So for the Star Wars fans out there, she's not really what you would call a main character, at least before the Clone Wars came out. She was more like a, you know, background character that a lot of people didn't even know existed. So even other Star Wars fans, I would go like, Barriss Offee, what? Who? So there I was sitting propped against that column, and my character has a green face. Okay, well, just like olive green, yellowish, but still fairly green compared to my regular complexion. So I was sitting there, and a mother walks by with her daughter. Her daughter was like 7. And the mother points at me and says, "Look, there's the big bad witch of the West." And the little girl, I kid you not, she turned to her mother and she went, "No, that's Barriss Offee." And I lost my entire mind.
That's amazing.
I was 7. She was 7 years old, and the like pure sass on that child, and the fact that she knew exactly who I was costumed as just like blew my mind, and it made my entire day.
That is amazing.
What's the hardest costume that you had to wear?
This one, I think, actually, only because of the headpiece, but definitely this one. Just comes down to the headpiece.
Seems legit, yeah. The hardest costume for me was Diana from League of Legends. Mainly because, well, it was the first armor I had ever made, and I did not have experience making armor. And though it turned out looking just fine, the costume was physically painful to be in. I needed painkillers as soon as I had the costume on. So surprisingly, I did end up wearing it for a shocking number of times. I think I wore it like 5 or 6 times despite all of that. I hate it. It's somewhere in my attic now. It's in a suitcase. I don't have the heart to throw it away, but I will never ever wear it in my entire life ever again.
Understandable.
Irina,
Yes.
we heard about the 2 hours that Diana need for makeup and costume. What about you for this costume?
Well, I've put this costume on so many times that I think I took it down to about 30 minutes.
Oh,
Makeup and then another 10 minutes of dressing up because it's mostly just fabric and the headpiece that you can't actually see that well because of my background. But yeah, not more than 40 minutes actually.
and one more question. What is your most complex and extraordinary costume that you have made or have wear?
I think for me, it's the necromancer, the one that is in my presentation picture. I think it was the most complex one to date, and also one of my most difficult to make because, well, I was dealing with a lot of leather and a lot of techniques that I was used to, and just an overall challenge, and it took me almost a year to finish. And it's also pretty hard to breathe in, so if I put it on, I can't really sit.
I think for me it was Malthael from Diablo, mainly because it's a really detailed costume, and I also, because I guess I hate myself for this, I looked at some even more detailed reference pictures than what you can see in the game. I grabbed a bunch of 3D pens and I went to town with them, and that took forever. And close to that is an unfinished costume that I have, which is a Valkyrie from the new God of War game that is, again, 3D pen galore, full of details, and I have yet to finish that actually.
Yeah, on the unfinished end, I still have that elf costume that I don't know if I'm gonna touch ever again, but we shall see.
All the costumes are made, all your costumes are made by you?
For me, yes. Though if I had a chance to just buy a costume, I would. But, you know, specifically a costume made by someone else, because the costumes that you can actually buy are way under my standards.
Definitely.
Mostly just stuff made by me.
For me, I think 90% of my costumes I make myself. The only problem that, or the only part that I used to have problems with was sewing. For example, this costume, I actually had my aunt help me with it. But I've been learning sewing as well, so I really want to get to that 100% self-made ratio, I guess. I've mostly been picking armored cosplays, which is something I know I can do. So in that regard, yes, I have made those myself completely.
Thank you. We have, let's say, 10 more minutes. If you want to say something more.
Well,
I think we should talk a little bit about the Legion.
yeah. So, in short words, what we do as the Legions, both the 501st and the Rebel Legions, we're doing costuming for charitable reasons. So people can go to the Rebel Legion site or the 501st and request an appearance, and we make an appearance, and the person requesting has to provide a donation to a charitable cause. So we're never actually taking anything directly. We don't work for payment, but we do work for a cause. And we also go to, you know, hospitals and children's events. So that's particularly fun and sweet. It's a relatively new movement here. It's more developed in the Western countries. There are a lot more outposts and bases and people doing this on a regular basis. So it's a pretty global movement. There are bases and outposts pretty much all over the world. So it's safe to say that we're really one big family that really loves doing this.
I think we have I think over 14,000 members currently, or maybe even more than that.
I think it's more, yeah. And
It's a big movement.
when you actually go and meet people from other country and you have this in common, like you're both in one of the legions or both, a lot of people are, it feels like family. It's like, oh, you're one of us, come over here. So you just skip over a lot of the introductions. It's just friendly right away, and it's amazing.
And it's something quite unique seeing, at least in our case, when the 501st Legion and the Rebel Legion came together, and it's basically both bad guys and good guys doing a good thing together for a good cause. And it's something really, really nice to do.
It usually ends up being so fun.
Yeah.
Particularly because, you know, all of the shenanigans that goes on between the two sides, you know, just like gentle prodding and making fun pictures, goofing off. It's great. And it really brings people together.
Yeah.
It was actually an interesting call for me to make to join the Legions. I'm usually a very busy person, to say the least, and oftentimes I have had to refuse appearances of myself in costume for like actual money, because I went like, no, that is way too much effort. But if there's a cause involved, if there's something for charity, and it's, you know, one of those events, I love going, and I will choose to go every time as long as I can, as long as I'm available. I will go there, and it's so much better, you know. It's a different sort of feeling to know that you're maybe making a difference in someone's life, you know. So that's why I decided to join. And, you know, being the Star Wars nerd, it sort of went hand in hand. I'm like, okay, yeah, it works.
It's definitely a rewarding experience, and the atmosphere is amazing, both with the other members and with the people you're helping, especially if you get to interact with them a lot. And it's a very fun thing to do, especially if it helps people.
It's very nice. Can we see your costume? Can you stand up and show us your costume at least?
It's a bit difficult.
Oh, if you cannot, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I can go further back than this, so.
Oh, yeah.
This is as much as I can do, I think.
Okay, it's perfect. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, it's like a dress. I don't know your characters, so sorry. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, I see both of the costumes now. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for having us.
It was great. I am a fan of cosplaying. I am a Doctor Who fan, so I have some costumes. My daughter also has some costumes, especially from the last Doctor. And I appreciate your work, and good luck. Good luck with your charity cause, with your costumes, with everything you do. Thank you very much once again, Irina and Diana.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
And I hope, and we will see us face to face next year, because I hope that everything will be okay.
Hopefully. It'll be amazing.
Bye, girls. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a splendid weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.